Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You see, when I was a child, I was supposed to keep a lot of secrets. And that is what I always wanted to do. I kept a lot of secrets. And my mom, I'd like to think so, she hoped that I would dispose these secrets off as easily as I disposed of the horrendously colorful rainbow dolls that she got for me, or the green vegetables that she served to me on the plate. But unfortunately, or fortunately, that never happened, not until today. And as I stand in front of you here to share my story, I see a reflection of myself. And I am very afraid and also very excited. And I can literally hear my heartbeat because for the very first time in my life, I'm here to share my vulnerable self with not just you, but with also myself for the very first time. According to me, to be very exact, I think that it's very difficult to identify that exact moment when your life falls apart, right? It doesn't come to you in one specific circumstance, or it's not a one-shot story. It doesn't come to you through one realization, one phone call, or one revelation. It happens circumstance after circumstance, situations after situations. It comes pieces after pieces, not before you find yourself, until you find yourself amidst a heap of splintered relationships, of broken dreams and shattered hearts. And then you start realizing that your life is falling apart. Since the age of 6, I used to speak. I was into public speaking. And after 50-odd shows about anchoring on national television, on doing national-level debates, or of doing international-level elocutions, there came a point in my life, and I'll recount the exact specific incident to you, when I was standing in front of a national television recording for the finale of a debate competition, and I suddenly couldn't speak, right? If you can imagine, I just stopped speaking and I started weeping. And if you asked me why, I wouldn't be able to answer, because as much as I'd like my suffering to be mystical and revered and glamorous, it is just a pattern of, broken pictures and dreams. And I do not know when and what happened to me, but I completely lost my confidence as a public speaker. And after all these years of being on stage and of being able to speak confidently, there was a time when I would be locked in my room and I started developing a stage fright. And not just that, but my academic life suffered too. I don't know if a lot of you will be able to relate with it, but I used to work my gut off, and I used to top a lot of exams in my internal examinations, but in my board examination, I was unable to lift my pen for the first 15 minutes, and I had a terrible panic attack. I was sweating bullets, and I was weeping. And when that happened, I lost confidence, and I wanted to look at myself. Every time I looked at myself in the mirror, I wanted to redeem myself in my own eyes, but I just wasn't able to do that. And when I lost myself and when I lost confidence, I also lost a lot of people who loved me, right? A lot of people whom I loved and who loved me, they started leaving my life apparently because I was changing. And I never felt so worthless and lonely. I sat down in my room and I cried like an infant. And that led to a moment of surrender when I buried my face in the pillow and I cried, because I could no longer speak the way I used to. I could no longer excel in academics the way I used to, and I no longer could love the way I used to. I cried like an infant, ladies and gentlemen. And today, before I came here, I was facing similar apprehensions. And I really wanted to go back to being that person. I'll be very honest, I thought I would quit talking today because, believe it or not, my heart was fluttering, I'm still shaking, but here I am in front of you because I chose to fight that blue phase that I went through of not being able to be the person that I was. So I would like to believe that, even if you're not able to relate with exactly what happened to me, and even if you find it very weird, because I find it very weird myself, whatever happened to me, your story and my story at some point of time in life will converge somehow. And that day, you and I will have traveled this journey of vulnerability, not in pieces, but in peace. And that is exactly why I wanted to share with what I went through today as the only teen speaker on board, right? So then I realized that there is a certain part of me, a part of me that I don't really identify, which doesn't work the way I want it to work. So that thing has a certain amount of propensity for me to really think the way I want to hold on to certain emotions, to hold on to certain expectations and certain realities, and it isn't within my control. And when I realized that, it led to my pursuit of happiness. It led to my self-discovery of, a realization of a truth. And when I think of it today, my heart starts to beat, and my heart starts beating fast, and my ears sort of tend to get red, and it is not a physical phenomenon as a response to fear. It is just the realization of a truth that I wasn't human anymore. That is what I realized. I wasn't feeling like a human anymore, and hence started my discovery of trying to become a human again. Now, being human has a lot of different parts. It's a very complex process. And when I realized that I wasn't feeling like a human anymore, I was feeling lonely, I wasn't able to connect to my fellow human beings, I realized that I was in loss of an identity. Now, part of being human requires you to have an identity. Who am I? Who should I be? Who should I not be? Now, how do you answer these questions in a world where your identity is insisted on how young you are, how beautiful you are, on your age, on your achievements, on everything that is materialistic and everything that you could possibly lose? So would I say that a part of me trying to discover the human inside me required me to abandon identity completely? Absolutely not. I just realized an endless number of, tissue rolls later of weeping, that identity is actually an illusion. And I repeat, identity is actually an illusion. When people like you and me work hard day in and day out to become the person that we want to be, and more so to avoid becoming the person that we don't want to be, we try to find ourselves. But as hard as we may try, identity is an illusion. Identity is like holding water, trying to hold water in your hands. One moment you feel like you have, you've held on to something, but the other moment it's gone, because you and I change. And that is what it is. Hence, looking for an identity should be more, it should be more of concerned with what makes you bleed, of discovering what makes you bleed, and also discovering, on the other hand, what makes you heal. So when I discovered that, so as to what makes me bleed and what makes me heal, I realized that everything that I do in life, everything that I achieve, all the international awards, all the national awards, they have the capacity to overwhelm me. Your love has the capacity to overwhelm me. My parents have the capacity to overwhelm me. So does that mean I forget the pursuit of happiness completely? No. Because I realized that the only sense of permanence of happiness in my life was giving unconditional love and receiving unconditional love. So then I started my campaign for children affected by AIDS. When I started, I'll be very honest with you, I did it more for my Instagram likes and Facebook likes, because I was doing everything on the board. I was doing academics, I was doing ECAs, I was doing poetry, I was doing debate, I was also doing art, although I don't know how to hold a paintbrush, but I was doing everything, and I was not doing volunteering. I was not into the voluntary club, and I wanted to ace that as well. So that is how I started. And I remember that I tried to be this really cool kid, and I went up and I asked one of these children who was affected by AIDS, how do you feel being an underprivileged child? And that child thankfully happened to be smarter than me, and he told me, you should be the one answering that question. And I said, what do you mean? And then he said, you're the one who's underprivileged, because if you want thrill in your life, what do? You spend money, you take a ride, you take a long drive, you go for bungee jumping, you spend money, and that is what thrills you. You celebrate your birthdays, you spend a lot of money, and you think that is what makes you happy. On the other hand, I don't know whether I will celebrate my next birthday, and yet I'm happy. And this is what thrills me. Every second that I breathe thrills me. And hence, you are an underprivileged. And since you're here, let me teach you things that are required to live life, to actually live life. And that was a moment that completely changed my outlook of life. And since that day, my campaign has been about us, economically privileged children, going to them and learning things from children affected by AIDS. We spend time, we don't teach them. We don't teach them. It's a campaign that is spread across 3 countries, and a lot of governments recognize it's the only campaign that works for children affected by AIDS, but that's besides the point. It is the only campaign where children affected by AIDS teach normal or, privileged people. So then I realized that loving is actually very, very difficult, because my ego is a nasty lady, and she keeps asking me, how are you going to love these kids, or anyone for that matter, unconditionally? Are you going to be loved back? Do you think this could help you? Can this make to your CV to say very specific questions that my ego asks? And every single time I have to tame my ego by giving a very juvenile answer, which is, does a dog ask these kind of questions before loving someone? No, the dog just loves. And although I don't like animals, I find this logic, no matter how juvenile, it fits into perception for me. So a part of healing, the part of healing and redeeming myself was loving these kids unconditionally, of learning from them, not teaching anything to them at all, but just spending time with them and learning things from them. And that is what makes this campaign one of a kind. These children teach us whatever they've learned from life, because they do have a very deep understanding and maturity that they're not going to survive for a very long time, that they do face social stigma and all of these sort of things that we never understand as privileged beings, right? A very important part of my self-discovery and why I'm standing in front of you here today is because I realize, unlike what I used to be, that it's okay if I forget, it's okay if I fall, it's okay if I faint, it's absolutely okay if I need to pause and cry, because I'm only a human, and I can go through a lot of uncontrollable emotions. But that didn't come to me easily. I had to completely realize that my identity is indispensable, that I don't really matter. Okay? It might sound very cynical, but I had to believe that I don't really matter. And that caused me to write all my personal pronouns of life with an invisible ink. And when I did that, I felt truly compassionate. So, like I told you, I wish that my personal suffering was something that was very glamorous, that was very mystical, that was revered. But believe it or not, life crumbles down at some point of time or the other. You will see that your life will crumble down. And in those moments, when you lose yourself, you will feel lonely and you will feel worthless. And for those moments, I'd like to tell you that as humans, we're not entitled to be happy. Happiness is just it isn't a destination, it isn't a journey. Like a lot of people say, it's not a destination, it's a journey. No, it's not. It's just one of those emotions that you pick during the course of your lifetime, and it's only that important. And henceforth, don't sit back and don't wait for life to make you happy, because you're not entitled to be happy all the time. It's just one of those emotions that you will pick during the course of your life, and it's fine if you have to face struggle for it. So, as I conclude my speech, I would just like to say one thing about how I discovered that I was not human enough. I can guarantee you, and I'm no psychologist, but I can guarantee you that a lot of you sitting in this room are not humans. Because when you look at so what is it like to be a human? When you look at another human being, you should be able to look at a vulnerable set of eyes. You should be able to see through all that they've been. You should be able to see a person who's been hurt and who has in turn hurt somebody else, who's a hypocrite, who's a warrior, who's a hero. And if you look carefully, trust me that you will be able to see the person's soul through their eyes. And when that happens, you will have learned more about your humanity, about the sense of being. You will have learned to love. You will have learned that love is not an action. It's just a natural state of being. And you will have learned to love, considering that your identity is indispensable, right? So that is all that I have to say. That when your life starts falling apart and when you think that nothing is going right, just love. Become human for once. Look at someone, feel vulnerable. Sell passion for free. Don't teach little kids how to speak in English. Teach them how to dream. And when you teach them how to dream, teach them that, they're here. Don't let anyone tell you, in the campaign that I run in India, a lot of people tell me that, why do you expect us to have dreams? We're poor people. Don't let anyone ever tell that to you. Help them, learn them how to dream. Talk to people, talk some more. Talk about your life. We're humans, we have certain qualities because we're designed and we're destined to coexist. Use that to the fullest of your capacity. Because believe me when I say this, because after we as humans have discovered everything in life, after we've harnessed the potentials of gravity, the potentials of wind, the potentials of sun, we will look to God to help us believe in the potential and the energies of love. And that day, for the second time in the history of mankind, we shall have discovered fire. Let us all discover that fire. Thank you.